Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where Karen demands that OP dates her. Am I the jerk for telling my coworker the real reason why I wouldn't date her? I have a coworker, let's call her Pam, who I've worked with for a couple of years now, and she's a lovely woman. She's very pretty, good at her job, and I value her as both a coworker and as a friend. She got divorced about a year ago and has started getting back into dating in the last few months. Nothing serious though. I'm widowed and I have a 7-year-old. I'm definitely not opposed to dating another single parent as I have before. Problem is, her kid is honestly unbearable to me. It's hard to say how much is his fault, as he does have ODD, and I suspect some other things as well. He's 13 years old, but regularly throws tantrums that you'd expect of a much younger kid. He's been suspended from school multiple times, and she's had to have him come into work with her to keep an eye on him, and he always gets into trouble here as well. He's the worst kid I've ever been around. About a month ago, we were at a work function and dating came up and she asked me if I was seeing anybody. I told her no, and she brought up the idea of us going out as we get along so well. I gave her the whole, we work together and I don't date where I work thing, but she just let it go and mentioned how a lot of our coworkers had met at work and it worked out for them. For what it's worth, we are in different departments and we work on different floors, so while I see her at work a decent amount, it's not really a working together and seeing each other every day thing. The last week, the weather has been beautiful, and yesterday, management let us all off an hour early to enjoy the weather, and a lot of us went to the place next door. She brought us up again, and again, I gave her the same thing. She then pushed and said she doesn't believe me. She asked if I don't like to date other parents, and I told her no, it's not that. She kept pushing, and eventually I was honest with her, and I told her that her kid was just too much. Not that I don't think I could handle a tough kid, but I just have no desire to put up with that from a kid who's not mine. Let's just say she did not take that well, and she snapped at me about talking about her kid, and she left shortly after. Today I'm working from home, but I'm feeling a little guilty about all of this. Was I a jerk, and should I apologize, or just let it go? Not the jerk. You tried to sidestep, but she wouldn't let you. This probably ends your friendly relationship, and you have to think if you want to bring this proactively to HR or not. At the very least, maybe let your boss know so he knows the full story if HR starts asking questions. Her aggressive investigation of why you wouldn't date her was inappropriate in the first place. No one is entitled to an explanation as to why you don't want to date them. You could have refused, but she was so pushy. I don't think she would have accepted it. She's going to think less of you though. It's probably not either her fault nor her son's fault that he's like this. Am I the jerk for how I checked my pregnant neighbor for how she was acting with my husband? My family, me, my husband, and 2 daughters, live directly across from our neighbor, Addie, who is, from what I remember, 6 months pregnant. Our neighborhood grew close when her husband passed 2 months ago due to a drunk driver. The entire neighborhood basically came to help, and even now the community still does semi-monthly barbecues and stuff. We know how it feels to have a parent absent. My husband has been deployed before. So we often checked in on her, invited her over, conversations on how to handle being on your own while pregnant. For a couple of weeks now, she's been asking my husband to be her handyman. My husband has no issue with this, and neither did I until a week or so ago. She asks my husband for help over the simplest things and barely talks to me anymore. Most times she'll knock, ask if my husband is home, and if I say no, she tells me to let him know that she needs him and walks off. No talking, having tea together, nothing. I can admit, I am a little bit jealous and I feel weird about this. It was like she was only wanting my husband around. I tried to push these feelings aside until the first incident. Basically, she knocked on my door and handed a covered plate of cookies. I got excited and started to thank her, how the girls love cookies. But then she interrupted me and told me that these were strictly for my husband, not for us. I had a sour taste in my mouth and I thanked her. It made me feel like she was trying to have a big house and a little house situation. I let my husband know what happened and how I felt. He assured me nothing was going on, no doubt, but he also agreed that what she did was disrespectful. We agreed he would stop going over there. He would give her the numbers of guys he knows who do maintenance. She has been cold with us. The second incident happened when the community was having a barbecue in the neighborhood park. The kids were running around and us adults were sitting with the lawn chairs talking about whatever. Addie piped up and said how she is grateful to all of us for helping her. Even me, after it was strange how I basically forbid my husband to go over and help her anymore. I got a little mad, like I was slapped by God himself, and I just said, well, baking a gift for my husband only and saying his wife and daughters aren't included is strange too. Another neighbor changed the topic, and it was awkward. I'm sure there's gossip and whatnot. On one hand, I know she must still be grieving, and maybe she's just looking to have someone to be there for her. On the other hand, I feel like the incident with the cookies and then the barbecue makes me feel disrespected. My husband is not happy with how I responded. He says that it's not my job to check someone, and I should have just let her talk. I guess I just want to know if I was a jealous jerk through all of this. I don't really have anyone I can talk to about this personally. Not the jerk. I get that she's grieving and is probably not in her right mind, but the cookies thing was weird. If she had said, I made them for husband as a thanks for all the work he's done for me, then that's fair. But to say that they are strictly just for him, that's weird. And you were basically politely letting it go until she called you out in public, so I think it's fair to answer her in public. Plus, honestly, how much do-it-yourself or maintenance help does one house need? It's been 2 months since her husband passed, and your husband has had to go over multiple times? As a single woman who is useless at DIY and has to get someone in to fix almost anything, I don't have to call people monthly, never mind weekly. Not the jerk. She tried to embarrass you and was counting on your silence due to her situation. No one's going to comment on husband being the jerk for not standing up for his wife? This is Reddit. How many stories is this the first red flag and then it turns out stuff was going on? She took a shot at OP. OP fired back. Husband sided with not his wife. OP, you seem completely convinced your husband is innocent. Maybe he is, but why did he choose her? Does he like the attention and secretly resents you interfering? I know you will say no, but he didn't choose you in a public moment when this lady took a nasty shot at you. My daughter knows nothing about her partner. My daughter, 21 female, started dating her current boyfriend about 2 years ago. She had just broken up with her ex, who she had been with for 4 years, so I thought maybe it was a rebound and I wasn't too worried about it. But as time went on, their relationship became more serious than I thought it was going to be. My daughter was happier and more energetic, started eating better, and actually started to take care of her health so that she could be better for him. So I wanted to get to know him more, which in my head seemed pretty reasonable since she is my daughter. But when I talked to her boyfriend, trying to get to know him better, for whatever reason, he was very vague and even seems dismissive about the topic. I thought that maybe he was just shy, so I asked my daughter about it. But she told me that he doesn't really like to talk about himself a whole lot, and even she didn't know a whole lot about him. Besides his few hobbies, the only thing she really knows about him was that he is either currently serving in or working with the military, travels a lot for work, speaks at least 4 different languages fluently, grew up without parents as an orphan, and where he lived. And as a mother, the fact that my daughter didn't know much about her partner was an issue for me. He wasn't active on social media or anything, so I couldn't go the old name search route. So when I learned that he was either currently serving or working with the military, I asked my father, a retired vet, to talk to him. But after my father had a conversation with him, he told me that her boyfriend is fine and that I shouldn't overthink it without any further discussion. In fact, he supports their relationship, and they seem to have become pretty close, spending time together talking in the garage, going out for drinks and food, watching old movies, and even going shooting together. I feel like I need to know more about him since he is my daughter's partner, but I also don't want to ruin anything because I can tell my daughter is happier with him than she's ever been before. I've even considered a private investigator as an option. Feel like that's going a bit overboard. Should I just accept him for now and expect more details later, or what should I do? Edit 1. I was never going to hire a private investigator. I just mentioned it in my post just to show the severity of my worry. And it is possible for a parent to be worried about their kid without any hidden agenda. I was once her age, and all I want is for her to live a better life than mine. Edit 2. I'm 46. I haven't really tried to force him to tell me everything about himself. I've asked him twice over the years, and both times he just dismissed the topic. For people asking me what languages, I know he speaks English and French because those are the 2 that I speak. My daughter has seen him speak Spanish and mentioned that he's been teaching her German. My father has mentioned that he thinks he might know either Dari or something else. And for everyone saying that he is a guaranteed super top secret government person, I think chances of him being a con man with a secret family halfway across the country is higher than him being Jason Bourne Jr. My daughter has on multiple occasions expressed the discomfort of not knowing much about what he's doing, but she told me that she is willing to just accept it and go with it for now. So you, 1. Don't trust a secretive military spy-sounding dude that you don't know much about. Fair. 2. Don't trust your daughter's judgment at all. So you either didn't raise her to think critically and can't trust her judgment, or you just have a very hard time letting go of control. Problematic. 3. Don't you trust your dad? After you went to him for help in the first place? What the heck? OP. It's not that I don't trust her judgment, but the fact that she doesn't even know any basic things about him, such as what school he went to, or his middle name, or whatever. I trust my father, but I also don't know what my father did in the military, and I barely ever got to see him as I was growing up because he was busy with his military stuff. I can accept that he doesn't want to tell me anything. The only thing that worries me is that she doesn't even know anything about him. As for those hobbies, she knows he likes fishing and reading. I also barely ever saw my father when he was in the military. Is it really that hard to understand that a parent can just be worried about their kids without any hidden agenda? Update. Forget all of you who told me I'm a narcissistic, nosy helicopter parent. I talked to my daughter last night about my concerns. I told her that I'll always worry about her, even if she ends up hating me or pushing me away. When I told her about my concern about her relationship, I expected her to hang up or get upset with me. But instead, she broke down and cried a bit because she also sometimes feels those worries. She told me that although he does make her happy, she feels that they haven't really grown any closer or made any progress in the relationship. And the fact that she still doesn't know a lot about his life made her overthink and stress herself out. She also told me that she thought maybe he was cheating on her or something since they've never actually hooked up, but he showed no real signs of cheating. We talked on the phone for about 3 hours, and she decided that she will invite the boyfriend over to my house this Saturday and we can ask him to tell us anything he can tell us. We don't plan on forcing him to say anything he can't. At the end of the call, my daughter told me that she loves me and that she's lucky to have a mother like me that worries and cares about her. I also talked to my father and told him that although I love and trust him, I still would like to know more. He wanted to know why, and I told him just in case if the boyfriend is a con man, what are the chances he might be able to BS his way into my father's safe zone? He thought about it for a while and decided that I had a point and that he didn't want to take those chances if there was any. So forget all of you who said I was being an overbearing, bossy, and controlling mother who will end up getting cut out of my daughter's life, because my daughter thinks I'm being perfectly reasonable, and she's glad that I care about her. A lot of people on the previous post told me that he could be a special force, operation, SEAL, 3-letter, or a spy. Then he should be able to tell us a cover story, or just tell us that he can't talk about it, rather than just dismissing the question awkwardly when it comes up. And he wasn't just doing that to me. Whenever any member of our family asks him a question, he shuts it down. And seriously, life isn't a movie. There's a higher chance of him being a weirdo who's secretly hiding a family halfway across the country than the chances of him being James Bond. And to the one Redditor who told me that I should hook up with him, no, just no. Edit. No, it wasn't my place to interrogate the boyfriend. All I mentioned to her was my discomfort of the fact that she knew so little about him. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for her concerns or not? Please let us know. 2 things you never want to get from Reddit: parenting advice and marriage advice. Am I the jerk for calling off my wedding and telling my fiance to move back home with mommy? I'm not going to try and swing this in my favor here by leaving out details or sugarcoating anything. I was mean about it. He was crying. I've been with my fiance for 7 years and we've been engaged for 3 years. We've gone ahead and tried to do a save the date 4 times now, and every single time his mom convinces him to postpone. It's always a, well, don't you think you have bigger things to worry about? Whether it be our living situation, we're renting and she thinks we should buy first because we aren't stable. Or our money situation. This was her excuse after we loaned her $8,000 so she didn't lose her home. But we have plenty of money as my husband is an RN and I'm a lawyer. It's just always something. We planned for a family gathering in my mom's backyard. She has 3 acres and a beautiful pond and it's just perfect. And we're doing a potluck, so very low-cost wedding. Plus, everyone we know lives within an hour of the location, so only giving a month or 2 notice is perfectly acceptable in our case. With all this said, his mom has 0 reason to try and sway against it. But her newest argument is that we need to wait until our daughter is at least 3 so she can be our flower girl. She's 7 months old. Well, in December, my husband and I talked, and we decided we wanted to get married in August. I told him, don't let your mom dictate it. And he said he wouldn't and that he was tired of listening to her. Fair enough. But last weekend, my mother and his mother both came over for dinner, and I was talking to my mom about what dress I wanted her to wear as the matron of honor. My husband's mom asked when we planned to tell her we had decided on a date, and my husband said, when we told everyone else. She just said, "Oh," and got quiet and took leave maybe 20 minutes later. He had already made plans to go over to her house after dinner to help her with her cable box, so he left shortly after that to head over to her place while I drank some wine with my mom. When he got back, he was super quiet, but said he was just tired and went to bed. But last night he said, at random, "My mom kind of has a point. Maybe we should wait until we buy a house, so our living situation is a bit more stable. She's not wrong in saying that it should be something we're worried about." I just went silent and didn't comment because I was ticked off. But he kept making comments like, "It'll only be a couple of years, 5 at most." I just took my ring off and handed it to him and said I was no longer interested. He immediately started protesting and trying to put the ring back on my finger, but I wouldn't let him. I said I was no longer interested in marrying him and maybe he should move back home with mommy because I know for a fact that that woman will make up another excuse the second we buy a house, and I'm really just so turned off at the thought of marrying him at this point because I have zero business being with a man who has no backbone and would put our lives on hold in favor of a woman who still wants to scrub his back in the shower. As I said, I was mean about it, but to clear it up now, no, she has not said that she wants to scrub his back in the shower, but she often talks about how she had to help him for months when he was 16 because he broke his leg. He's crying at this point, and I'm super calm about it. I'm just done at this point. I told him I wanted him to leave, or I could leave, but those were the only options. He ended up leaving, crying the entire time. I do feel bad. I feel gutted. He means everything to me, but I can't do this anymore. Am I the jerk? His mom has been blowing up my phone with texts, trying to plead her case, and I just texted back and said, "No, it's fine. You won. Now you can have your baby boy back full time," and I blocked her number. My friends think I'm wildly overreacting. And sorry for the confusion. I call him my husband by habit and have since before we were engaged. Not the jerk. People think that when a relationship really ends, it's this huge production, but in reality, it's quieter, just like what happened here. I don't know who would honestly tell you that you've overreacted because you finally got fed up with his mom literally dictating how two adults with careers and a kid will live their lives. I don't know how you didn't leave sooner. Not the jerk. He's repeatedly made it clear that his mother's opinion is more important than yours. He's going to have a very lonely life if he doesn't learn to cut the cord and have some boundaries. Not the jerk. Even after you buy a house, there will be another excuse. Sadly, he had the chance to stand his ground and he failed for the last time. Sorry for the loss of your relationship, but it sounds like it was for the best. Dude, I promise I can't help you. This happened last week and I still find it funny, so I thought I would share it. I went to my local Walmart to find a new tower fan since my dog body slammed my old one and to buy some dog and cat treats. I was stood in an aisle looking for a dog-proof tower fan when a tiny Latino man poked me on my arm, repeating the word conserva and then help in English. Now, this guy couldn't have been any taller than maybe 5'1". He looked like he was in his 60s or early 70s, and he started asking me where some kind of food or plant was, along with repeating conserva. I don't speak any Spanish, but I understand some easy words. I tried to explain that I didn't know what he wanted and that I didn't work at Walmart, but it was clear that we didn't understand each other, so I walked away to find me some dog and cat treats. The guy keeps following me around the store and kept asking me things in Spanish, so I don't really understand anything he's saying. After a few aisles of him doing this, I stopped, looked at him, and all I said was, "Dude, I promise I can't help you." He finally said okay in English and walked away. I figured he had given up after understanding what I said, or maybe he realized that the guy in the grungy clothes wasn't his guy. I eventually found some cat treats, and while walking down the aisle to where the dog stuff was, the man approached me again with one of the managers in tow. He was talking to the manager in rapid-fire Spanish, who was then responding in very slow Spanish back to him. And the manager asked me, "What did you promise this man?" I responded, "I promised him nothing, except that I couldn't help him." The manager looked back down at him and asked him something. Then the manager said to me in a very confused tone, "He said you promised him something." Now y'all, I was at the end of my line with this guy, so I raised my voice a bit. All I said back was, "Did he also mention the 15 minutes he spent following me around the store, hounding me for stuff in a language I don't speak? I don't know what he's telling you or how that affects me, but can I finish my shopping?" The manager apologized for stopping me and walked away while arguing with the guy in Spanish. So I thought it was over. I took my basket to check out when the very same tiny old annoying guy stopped me again at the checkout line with who I'm assuming was his daughter on FaceTime. He pointed his phone screen at me. His daughter saw me and said, "So you obviously don't work here." Said something to him in Spanish angrily, and then he said something back and got huffy. Then I got to stand there next to him while his daughter went off on him for bothering random people. The daughter at least said sorry as he was walking away, but I couldn't really hear what she was saying because he was walking away from me so quickly. This doesn't really have a point besides making my day worse when it happened. However, I did buy a fan online and it's been completely dog-proof so far. At least that part went well. My long-lost daughter is demanding I pay for her college. It's been one heck of a month, so some things I say might not even make sense. I, 40 male, recently found out that I have a kid who we'll call Jane, who's 18. I wasn't convinced at first, but everything checks out. When she came to me, she told me that she just wanted to get to know her father. I wasn't really interested in a relationship, but I felt it would be cruel and unnecessary to deny her this. We talked for a while, and I didn't really say much, but it was interesting. So after we talked for a while, I asked her about her mother, Grace, who's 40, and she gives me her number. I really didn't want to have to call her, but I needed answers. So Grace and I decided to meet up at our local coffee shop. We have some small talk for a while before I ask her why she never told me. Silence. I ask again. Silence. I ask a third time, and she told me that she just didn't want anything to do with me and wanted to get back at me. I point out that all she did was deprive her kid of a father. I ask her when did she tell Jane? She says at age 12. So I get confused, and I'm wondering why she only contacts me now. So I ask her why. Grace says that she was angry that I wasn't present in her life. We talk some more about life before we say goodbye and go our separate ways. I don't ask Jane why she didn't call sooner because she was a hurting teenager, and that's life. So Jane and I spent the next week bonding. Then she sits down and asks to talk. I say sure, and I sit down. Then she goes on to explain about how difficult her life was living in a single-parent household and how money was always tight. Long story short, she asks me to pay for her university fees. Now, I'm well off enough to pay for it without struggle, so I asked to see her grades, and to be truly honest, they weren't very good. Not bad, but nothing to give a second look. I tell her that I'll think about it, and she says thank you. So here's where I might be the jerk. I don't want to pay for the fees because, in reality, she's just a stranger with my DNA, and I feel like Jane might just be using me. I mean, she's had 6 years to start a relationship with me, and is only doing so now that she needs money. I just want to wash my hands clean of her and Grace and move on with my life. I don't want Jane to think I'm her financial lifeline or anything like that. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Edit to add some stuff because of the comments. 1. I did a DNA test. It was what she wanted me to do to prove herself. 2. Child support laws are different in my country in the sense that A. You can't claim unclaimed child support if you had the option to claim it. B. Child support can't be settled after 18 unless the father knowingly disappeared, and that would take months to process, let alone prove. 3. Jane had the ability to contact me. I don't know how much influence her mother had on her choice, but I do know that I was a dial away. 4. I was never mad at Jane for not contacting me. I knew that she was a hurting teenager who doesn't know her father and could be scared to do so. I was confused in the moment. Not the jerk, but neither is Jane. Grace is a tremendous jerk to both of you. I do encourage you to seriously consider contributing to Jane's university expenses. Not to say you should or should not contribute, just seriously and honestly consider it. Think about her position. No father in her life, and a mother who won't answer any questions she's had for the first 12 years. Then who knows what context Grace gave when she finally did tell her. I'll bet she never said, "I told your father about you because I wanted to spite him, and I didn't care what effect that had on your childhood," despite that being the truth. Instead, she undoubtedly made you into the bad guy. Jane had no way of knowing better, and you should be sympathetic to that. I don't think you're a jerk, no matter what you decide. Just don't do anything to spite Jane. She's had enough of that already. There's no reason OP should need to feel sympathetic or be a jerk for not being sympathetic here. Jane, while yes is his biological daughter, is really a stranger and only really reaching out for cash. This is my view. I'm also forced to wonder how much contact Jane will keep up after getting a payout. It's pretty crazy to ask for that kind of money only a week after meeting. Not the jerk. Best options are, all I can give you right now is this amount, or, I'm sorry, things may have been different if I had known I had someone's college to save for, but I have not prepared for that expense. If she takes out loans, which it sounds like it's likely if he doesn't agree to help for a large portion, he can always see if she sticks around and actually seems to want to get to know him without the option of major financial support, and then choose to pay off some portion of her loans when they are due down the line, assuming she continues to make an effort when the possibility of money isn't a factor. If he says, all I can give you right now is this amount, or I'm sorry, things may have been different if I had known I had college to save for, she will either react by cutting contact because she was using him and got a no and that's the end of it, or she will stay in contact if she also genuinely wanted to get to know him. If she stays in meaningful contact and doesn't make a habit of asking for money or favors, then maybe he'll help her with her loans down the line. Once she's no longer a stranger who may or may not be reaching out just for a money grab, then he'll be able to have time to see whether her intentions were mostly good, whether there's a bigger place to be had in each other's lives, and can get to know her or find out her true colors without the pressure of that expectation hanging over them. Alternatively, I don't think it would be unreasonable to just gently refuse and cut contact if OP really wants to. Her mother had ample time and opportunity to include him in and prepare him for the responsibility, and she chose not to. While there's a lot of room to roll with the situation and see if there's any chance to make up some of the lost time and bond with her, ultimately her mom made the decision to cut him out until now, and any fallout from him not contributing or not wanting to be part of her life after missing her entire childhood is a result of her choice and her mess to clean up if he doesn't want to be part of their life at all. Yeah, it might feel bad for him for a while, but it's ultimately not his fault that he wasn't given the chance to make a meaningful bond with his kid to feel comfortable dropping large sums of money on her education. Am I the jerk for ruining a proposal at a wedding? So I, 27 male, am a part-time DJ. I mostly DJ for just family and friends. I'm not really a professional, just do it for a little side cash from time to time. Last weekend, I got invited to DJ on the cheap at a wedding for a friend of a friend. At the wedding, while everyone was on the dance floor, one of the guests, who we'll call Kevin, approached me and asked if I could play the song Golden Hour. It was an odd request because at the time, all the guests were literally hopping around and dancing, but I was told to take all requests, so I did it anyways. When I started playing it, the dance floor started to clear up, and then Kevin invited a woman onto the dance floor. They started slow dancing for a bit. A few people joined them, including the bride and the groom. Then at one part of the song, Kevin got down on one knee, and I knew right away that he was going to propose. I didn't think it was right, especially because they were in the middle of the dance floor with all eyes on them, and I kind of felt like if this happened, I would take the fault, because I was the one who put on the romantic song out of nowhere. So instead of letting that happen, as soon as he pulled out the box, I started to play Boogie and turned up the volume instead. After that, Kevin just side-eyed me and got up and everyone else sat down. After that, nothing else really happened and the tension was very thick. After the wedding, no one really brought it up, and I obviously thought that I wasn't the jerk, and the friend that was friends with the bride said that I wasn't. But then a bunch of the family started to message me. It turns out that Kevin was the bride's brother, and the family kept asking why I did that. I told them that proposing at someone else's wedding was not appropriate. They told me that I shouldn't have an opinion because I was just the DJ, and now Kevin got publicly humiliated because some people knew this was going to happen, so they were taking videos and live on Instagram so all their friends could see. I responded with, that would have made the newlyweds hurt, but then they came back with, you shouldn't have assumed that the bride didn't want that. That part got me thinking, because I was mostly communicating with the bride about arrangements, and she was very chatty before the wedding, but after that, she kept giving me one-word answers, so I assume she's mad at me. But then again, when she paid me, she almost doubled the amount for what I was asking for with a generous tip. So I'm not sure if the bride actually knew. I think she would have told me. But am I the jerk for just assuming? ETA. A lot of people said to ask the bride and groom. I did, but like I said, their answers were vague. Bride said it was fine, but it was probably just to spare my feelings. I didn't want to push because she clearly had a lot on her mind in the moment. If the bride knew this was going to happen and approved it, she should have told you beforehand. Going with not the jerk, your heart was in the right place. Protect the bride and groom's day. Yeah, maybe hindsight is 20/20 here. But if I'm the guy proposing, I'm making sure every important person, like the DJ you're requesting a special song from, is in the know. Make sure one of the bride or groom tells them that it's chill if the guy uses their wedding as the spot to propose. Honestly, I'd want both the bride and groom to tell the DJ together that it's okay. Maybe I'm just an overanalyzer, but I would be playing out every possible thing that could ruin the proposal before actually doing it and making sure those things are figured out. And if I can't shore it all up, then I'm not proposing. Agree 100%. If I'm the DJ, ain't no chance I'm honoring a request like that without getting verbal face-to-face approval from bride and the groom. And I want a third-party witness there to verify, preferably one of the other vendors. Proposing at someone else's wedding is very tacky. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.